Live now. Okay, hi. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. So, welcome back to our series of webinars. And today we are having the 25th International Talk on Green Business, Sustainability, and Climate Action. And as usual, this webinar is being organized jointly by the Global Ambassadors of Sustainability and the Global Green Chamber of Commerce. So now I'm inviting Ms. Michelle Thatcher for an opening remarks. So the floor is yours, Michelle.
Thank you, Dr. Wassam, and thank you everyone for joining us to our 25th International Talk. So today we have three visionary speakers who will take us on a journey from global system thinking to innovative closed loop urban solutions and to the precision of measuring climate impact. So first we will have Professor Barat will show us how the SDGs are deeply interconnected and why systems thinking is vital for sustainability. And then next, we will have Miss Sophie, who will reveal practical closed-loop building and city models that are reshaping how we live, work, and design for resilience. And then finally, we will have Professor Elham, who will ground us in the science of greenhouse gas measurement, ensuring action is both credible, impactful. Together, the perspectives form a powerful arc from vision to design and, of course, accountability, which we all need. So welcome, everyone, and welcome to our very global audience. We're so happy to have you joining us today. I want to provide a reminder on Thursday, September 18th will be our next webinar. I know today's Wednesday, which is a little bit atypical, but we will go back to our usual Thursday routine on the 18th. So please mark your calendar and join us. As Dr. Wassam had mentioned, this is in conjunction with the Global Green Chamber of Commerce. We are expanding green chambers around the world. We have one starting up in Morocco, Nepal, and really looking at those national chambers for expansion. And most of us don't think in terms of chambers of commerce that are new to the business community, especially the younger generation. But essentially, there is no other organization in the world collectively that focuses on business more, that has more expansion and power. And there's pretty much a chamber in almost every single country in the world, probably over about 20,000 globally. So if we can engage those chambers and create new ones to really focus on sustainability, there's so much that we can accomplish with that power. And looking at what we do here, there's the intersection of businesses along with academia and those chambers, because definitely we as chambers of commerce do work with the academic world. I want to take a moment with regards to all of the conflicts in the world, all of the challenges that each of you out there in our audience and here within each of us are experiencing right now. So let's all just take one moment to give peace, love, and kindness out there to all of those that are suffering right now. So just take one moment of silence. And we want to extend that to each of our speakers today. And thank you in the audience for, projecting that out into the world. I want to give each of you a friendly reminder to please, those who are joining us on LinkedIn Live, that we welcome your thoughts, your reactions, your insights to each of the presentations. Because we are a global audience, we really want you to share both your city and the country from where you're joining us today. And when each of the speakers give their presentations, please type in your question for them. And after all of the speakers present, we will then go to a live Q&A session. And I want to pass it back to Dr. Wissam, which without him, we would not be here today. The Global Ambassadors of Sustainability has brought all of these exceptional speakers to us. And if you have not joined on LinkedIn to be part of their family there, please do so, and also go to their website. So without further ado, I will pass it back to you, Dr. Wissam.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle, for these remarks. And now we'll move to start with our first guest speaker, Prof. Dr. Engineer Furat Al-Farraj. And Prof. Furat, he is an international expert on sustainability from the United Kingdom. So the floor is yours, Prof. Furat.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wissam, Michelle, Margot, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. And the presentation, the title of the presentation is No Goal Stands Alone, and how SDGs reinforce or undermine each other. The presentation actually, when I got invited to this event, I thought deeply about what would be could be the best presentation for me to give it globally, based on my experience and based on delivering more than 50 training courses and leading workshops, webinars on sustainabilities. I found actually that there is a lack in understanding the interlinkages between SDGs. And we need to move from the fragmented vision in thinking and in decision making to a more comprehensive, integrated approach, rather than to treat the SDGs as silos. But we need to understand and digest deeply what are the synergies and the trade-offs between the SDGs. The first slides, because the presentation can be divided into two parts. The first slides actually is can be considered as paving the way towards the understanding the interconnections between the SDGs. From the left side, we can see that the three elements of sustainability, which are the social, the economic, and the environmental. And from the right side, we can see the 5 pillars of sustainability, which are the peace, partnership, people, planet, prosperity. But also we need to understand how the SDGs, we all know that there are 17 goals, about 169 targets, more than 250 indicators, but we need to understand how the SDGs can be classified based on the 3 pillars, which are again the social, the economic, and the environmental aspect, and also the cross-cutting goals. Um, Also, we need to understand and digest also the classification of SDGs based on the five pillars of sustainability, which are the people, the planet, the peace, prosperity, and partnership. Sometimes we might find that some of the SDGs can be classified in two or more than two categories, uh, depending on their targets and indicators. I'm sure that you are all familiar with the SDGs and the number of targets associated with each of the 17 goals. But let me just here, as an example, focusing on the SDG 6, which is about the safe drinking water and sanitation for all by 2030. So this is the targets of the SDGs. As I mentioned, the first target, which is the safe drinking water, the second one, which is the sanitation and the hygiene, the third one, which is about the water quality, the fourth one, water efficiency, and number five, the integrated water resources management, number six, which is the water related ecosystems. And also there are two targets which are the related to the international cooperation and capacity building, and also participation, the effective engagement and participation of local communities. Having done this, we have 11 indicators to monitor and track the progress that uh, 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 can be made in order to achieve the each of the associated target, and also consequently the goal SDG 6. This slide shows, I'm not going to go deeply about this because the idea is to just to give you an introduction to pave the way about the importance of the integrated approach, about the comprehensive approach when we are looking and treating the SDGs. So this slide shows the 8 targets, and also shows the 11 indicators, because sometimes the title of the SDG, for instance, the SDG 6, which is safe drinking water and sanitation services for all by 2030, might give some confusion about the associated targets. So we need to look deeply about the targets that are linked to each of the 17 SDGs, and also to look deeply about the what are the indicators that can be used to monitor and track the progress made towards the achieving the SDG. By the way, the most recent report issued by the United Nations in 2024 mentioned mentioned that with the current progress, with the current trend to achieve the SDG cannot 6 cannot be achieved by 2030, and based on the current progress, it can be possibly achieved by 2046, which means that many countries are off track to achieve the SDG by 2030. Now, what I'm proposing here to simply understand how the SDGs are interconnected to each other is to use what is called the traffic light system. And we all know that it consists of three colors: the green, the yellow, and the red one. So the green, which means that there is a very strong relationship between the two goals. For instance, if we are going to consider the SDG 6 with the education, then we can find with the health sector, then we can find a very strong relationship between the so any progress made towards the achievement of SDG 6 would enable the other SDGs to be also have a positive progress. And we'll take some examples to see how the SDGs interconnected to each other using the very simple traffic light system in order to prepare and develop what is called a matrix or an array 17 by 17. We know that we have 17 goals. We can put it on a row, and 17 goals we can put it on a column. Then we're gonna have a 17 by 17 matrix, and we can also mark the interlinkages between the SDGs using the three traffic light system. This slide shows a very simple example about the synergies between the SDGs. For instance, if we consider the SDG 7, which is about the renewable energy, and the SDG 13, which is about the climate change, then we can see that any progress towards the empowering the use of the renewable energy or clean energy would definitely support the climate action and reduce the emissions. Similarly, if we look at the SDG 4, which is about the education, good education, also we can see that there is a positive relationship with the SDG 8 about the decent work and also the driving economic growth. Another example, the third example, SDG 6 and the 3, the clean water and sanitation, and also improve the public health. The fourth example, the SDG 5, the gender equality empowers women, reducing poverty, which is SDG 1. And the last example in here, it's about the ecosystem support the sustainable agriculture and food security. It has been found, just to let you know, that also based on the United Nations statistics, the most recent report shows that 2.1 billion people, 25% of the people worldwide, lack of access to safely managed drinking water. If we consider a part of the people, of the whole population, I'm focusing here about the women and girls, especially or specifically in in remote or rural areas. Also, the statistics of the United Nations mention that women and girls spend approximately 200 million hours every day collecting water. What does this mean? It means that this will prevent them from attending the schools, from the employment, and also from engaging in any economic activities. And this is very important to link the SDG 6 to the gender equality, to the education, and to the health sector, and also to the economic growth as one of the SDGs. So those who might just think that we need to allocate, for instance, sufficient amount of money to improve the infrastructure of the water sector, they need to think carefully that this is not only limited to the improving of the infrastructure of the water sector, but will have definitely a positive, a great impact about other SDGs. And this is the integration, this is the comprehensive approach that we all need to use in order to, in thinking and in making our decision.
Sorry, Prof, you have 2 minutes, please.
Yeah. This slide shows the some of the trade-offs between the SDGs, and we need also to think carefully about it. This is the SDG 8 versus the SDG 13. So the economic growth can increase emissions and also worsen the climate change. If I go to the in here, the SDG 2 and SDG 5, expanding agriculture can harm the ecosystem and biodiversity. So again, we need to think, we need to use the integrated approach rather than to treat the SDGs as silos. So this is just for you to be later on to use. This is the 17 goals, and this is the matrix 17 by 17s, and we can actually prepare a matrix similar to this if we consider the interconnection between the gender equality and no poverty. There is a strong relationship. So any progress that can be made towards the gender equality would affect the positively would affect the no poverty, because when the women and girls working, then this will reduce the rate of poverty. In here, if we consider the SDG 9, which is the industry, innovation, and infrastructure, this is also maybe trade-off with the SDG 6. So if we complete this matrix, we would have a better understanding on what are the actions that we need to put in place, what are the SDGs that we focus on, and then to check the synergies and the trade-offs between the SDGs, and this would enable us and will help us a lot in making a better decision, and also to advise and support the decision-making process and the decision makers. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. Forat, for this interesting presentation on the approach of looking at SDGs and the interlinkages between the SDGs. So now we are moving to the second guest speaker, Ms. Sophia Slengerland. And Ms. Sophia is the founder and chairwoman of Shine Ecological Technology from Netherlands. So the floor is yours, Ms. Sophia.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ressam and Michel Margot. I would like to talk about a closed loop solution for buildings and communities, because they build the resilience and the off-grid, not being dependent on anything else. And I think these days, this resilience is more important than ever. So we need to think of our city planning, our urban planning in totally different ways. We might need to think, how did our ancestors live? How did they commute from A to B? All these huge mega cities where you go from A to B only in the car. Of course, when it's super hot, it's different. In Saudi Arabia, it's different than, for example, in Holland or Europe. But still, we need to think in a different way how we will commute within our cities in order to be more resilient, in order to not drag our resources and pollute our air and our surrounding and environment. So that's why low carbon city, as you very well said, the UN SDGs are all interlinked, and like this, also our actions are interlinked. So when I take a car, obviously I have a bigger footprint than I would take the bike or walk. So this, we all need to rethink our actions, because we should hold ourselves accountable for every single action we do every day, every second, every moment. So actually, the older I get, the more elements add to this circle. I started right after my studies with sustainable architecture, and this is almost 30 years ago now. But I only targeted, obviously, being a European plant on thermal quality and not so, and then took the rest for given. But actually, all of these things, all centered especially around the human being, serve the human being, but while creating these things, we need to think of closing every loop. When we create, we need to think of the rest of our action. So we should always think of the accountability on how we can stop the footprint, and really always have the solution for the end. When I create, I use, I reuse, I recycle, but then, what then? When I recycle at the end, I cannot recycle anymore. So I need to have a solution at the end. So what will I do? And this is what I'm speaking of, closed loop. I start with the human being. It's the human being should, whatever we do and create and build and think, should always be in the center. And this is the well-being, the safety, the longevity, the resilience, and the peace. Whatever we do, whatever we think. This brought me to reinventing our buildings. Currently, I am in Shanghai, and obviously it's a city with a lot of skyscrapers, all not really very low carbon style. And I thought that this is not possible to continue like this, that we architects only think of the glossy magazines and the wonderful wow effect to the community we want to impress, but we need to think in the closed loop. So I created this ginkgo building, ginkgo because it has the old wisdom, but also it is resilient. Whatever happens, it is still there. And creating communities who are resilient means that within the communities, within the inhabitants of this building, you would have all kinds of different age groups. You would have open spaces, you would have public spaces and private spaces, you would have open spaces, you would have off-grid solutions for water, sewage, electricity, and food. So it is a kind of village or habitat which serves the community and the people living there. It's not only to live and sleep there, but also to really live in there, like in a small town or in a village. So you would have these outside spaces every 5-6 floors where you have vertical gardens to grow food, which is alimented by water recycling systems of sink and shower water to be reused, like filtered, clean, purified, and then recycled, but run also through these vertical farms. Then you would have dry, that means waterless sanitation, where you would generate from the waste of the sanitation, you would generate fertilizer full of good ingredients, nutrients, and elements to give back to nature, to grow your food. And then these spaces they purify the air. They are like oases inside the city. And then electricity also on the outside of the building facades, because the roofs are not big enough to power all the floors in all the apartments. But like this, you create really a resilient, off-the-grid habitat for the future, which is much more resilient than our nowadays habitats. So here you would have the open areas every 5 to 7 floors, and then with public areas like libraries or maybe toddler schools, little dispensaries like pharmacies and doctors, etc. We are currently talking with a hotel, the Bund Center in Shanghai. It's an old hotel to maybe bring this into the hotel in order to reinvent it. Then I go back to the people, the human being. Obviously, in big cities, you cannot always go on foot and use your bike, so public transportation. But if not, then electric cars or very, very little other cars giving a big carbon footprint. Prefabrication. Prefabrication is a possibility to reduce enormously our footprint in construction. Construction in total adds up to about 50% of our CO2 emissions worldwide. Even in places like China, which is the factory of the world, it adds up to 45+%. So it's huge. And additionally, if you prefabricate the buildings, and I mean, ideally it would be good to use renewable materials and to already start with a low carbon footprint. If you cannot, still prefabrication is or facilitates to reduce the carbon footprint and to rise the the building quality, so that at the end you do not need so much cooling and heating. Why is it a better quality when you prefabricate? Because when you build in concrete or bricks or something, then you have tolerances about minimum 1 centimeter. When you prefabricate, we speak about the thickness of a saw blade, and this is a millimeter thick at the maximum. So this tells you it's 10, like a tenth of the tolerance, which obviously is good. Okay. Then the thermal standard, as said, the better, which is the equivalent of the Leeds Platinum standard, is the German standard, which was created like in the 70s. It is a very exigent thermal standard, and you need for buildings the equivalence of 15 kilowatt per square meter annually to heat or cool, which is the equivalent of an old 60-watt light bulb. So it's almost nothing. It works especially because of the air tightness of the buildings, which is crucial in order not to lose calories. And it's valid, you can have these standards for hot, humid, or cold climates. What does it bring? It reduces when you compare to normal builds, it reduces the energy need by 90%, to newly built by 75%, which is huge. Then I come to water, and I really liked the presentation who was before me, because that's my day-to-day. I really concentrate and focus on water. Yes, you said 1 out of 4 will have no water, or not enough water, or not decent water. That was said for 2030, the World Bank, but I'm also sure that it will even be worse, and we will not have the safe drinking water for all by 2030, definitely not. So we need to harvest water. Every little drop counts. We need to use it correctly, and we need to recycle it. We need to extend the usage of the water. Only then we can make it more, although it's not more, but by using it more often, it gets more in quantity somehow. And then we need definitely, or excuse me, but we must change to waterless toilets. We always think waterless toilets are gross and smell and are horrible, but in the contrary, research has proven in the US, 3 universities, Colorado, Florida, and Virginia Tech, researched 21 and 22, and found that our water toilets actually are gross, because every time you flush, even with a closed lid, aerosol bacteria spray up full of pathogens, and then all the other bacteria you have, because of course here and there people are sick. So with waterless toilets, you prevent the contamination, you gather and harvest the nutrients and the good elements we don't digest, and create good fertilizer, organic fertilizer to soil the soil. The water recycling we created and we bring to the market is using the natural cycle, because I believe that nature is the strongest, and we kind of always mess up everything, we human beings, and we should just align with nature. So our water from showers and sinks goes through layers of pebbles and sand. Sand is antibacterial by itself and purifies the water already. At the end, we have obviously still membrane and osmosis filters. And for the user, that he or she is less stressed, we also use UV light, but this is only for the psychological effect. Our toilets, we have 3 kinds of toilets. portable toilets. With this, I actually participated in the Accelerate 2030 program in 2021. That's why I started with my waterless toilets, because I realized our water catastrophe and crisis. Then that's why I developed indoor toilets for everyone to use, either in factories, apartment buildings, hospitals, schools, hotels, wherever, either by gravity or by vacuum. And then obviously public toilets should definitely be off the grid for water, sewage, electricity. And yeah. The gravity toilets are either for a family just with a door, where at the end, inside there is a bamboo lining, and then at the end the waste is processed by microbacteria and doesn't pile up. It's really a miracle, and again, I can only say that's nature. Or when it's more than a family, it goes to a bigger tank by gravity, falls down. Or with vacuum, same principle, that it's packed, sealed, and cut and drops down in a bigger container, but then transported by vacuum system. They look like this, at least some of them look like this, others look a little bit different. And by this, really, with every flush, we do 6 liters of precious drinking water at the minimum is wasted, because black water can never be taken back into the cycle. So we lose it. Every time you go to the toilet, it's lost water, lost drinking water. With this also, of course, there are the processing carbon emissions being emitted, the excess of detergents and whatsoever also as pollutant. But we don't have this because we are fully dry. So 0 waste, 0 water usage, and 0 carbon. These are the toilets.
Sorry, you have 2 minutes, please.
I have 16. Okay, sorry. So these are the toilets. So our composting, normally it takes about 3 months, but we accelerate it to 1 day, just by nature. And then at the end, to really have fully autonomous off-the-grid buildings, we generate electricity, as I said, on the facade, wherever. It can also have whatever color, because it's then imprinted and you don't see that it's a photovoltaic cell. And then we store it in saltwater batteries. In cold climates, it can also be stored in sand batteries, but obviously for most climates they are too hot, so saltwater batteries are the better option. Yes, and here is the public toilets, or whatever commercial place or exhibition place or whatsoever it can be. That's it. Thank you very much for listening to me. I am already at the end. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Sofia, for this interesting presentation on the low carbon techniques and strategies. So now we move to the third guest speaker, Prof. Dr. Ilham Farouk Muhammad. And Dr. Ilham, she is a professor of air pollution, environment and climate change institute at the National Research Center in Egypt. So the floor is yours, Prof. Ilham.
Good morning, good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be here today and would like to thank the GOS team, Dr. Wissam and Michelle, for the opportunity to join this important webinar on green business, climate action, and sustainability. So, as we talk about green business and climate action, one key question comes to mind. Do we actually know where our emissions come from? As we know, we can't manage what we don't measure. So, understanding the emission sources and responsibility is the first step toward a serious climate action and sustainability. Okay. Today, I will talk about GHG emissions and their importance. Then we'll cover the emission scopes, the boundaries, and the calculation methods. Next, we will discuss correction action plan and the pathway to net zero carbon. And finally, we will conclude with sustainability and show how everything connects. Okay. Before we move forward, let's define what greenhouse gases are. Simply, greenhouse gases are gases that trap heat from the sun and keeping the earth warm and suitable for life. But when these gases level become too high, they cause what we call global warming, and this is the main reason for climate change. So after understanding the concept, the next step is to see which gases are officially recognized under the GHG protocol. According to the GHG protocol, there are 7 main greenhouse gases, included carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, and so on. Now, let's look at the impact of these gases. As we shown in the histogram, each gas traps heat differently, known as its global warming potential, GWP. Methane traps about 28 times more heat than carbon dioxide, and nitrous oxide about 265 times more than carbon dioxide. So even small amount can make a big difference. So after understanding the concept, the next step is to see which gas are officially recognized under the GHG protocol. According to the GHG protocol, there are, as we see, say, 7 gases, and these gases cause the global warming and climate action. Okay. No, okay. This is the main driver of global warming, and every organization contributes to this challenge and can also be part of the solution. Reducing emission isn't just an environmental concern, it's a core business responsibility. But to manage this, we need first to measure it, which brings us to the GHG protocol and its emission scope. The GHG protocol is the most widely used standard for measuring and managing the emissions. It helps organizations to answer 3 key questions. First, what to measure, which emission matter for your organization. And the second, how to classify emission into scopes. And finally, how to report, how to communicate emission in accurate way. GHG protocol introduced 3 scopes of emissions: scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. Now we will explore in details and see what they mean exactly. Okay, let's start with scope 1, which cover direct emissions from sources owned and controlled by the company. These include fuel burning in boilers or generators, emissions from company vehicles, gases released from industrial process, and even leaks from a pipeline. In short, all the direct emissions that company controls are scope 1. Now let's move to scope 2, which deal with indirect emissions from energy you buy. This include electricity, heating, cooling, or steam that the company buys to operate its facilities. Although the company isn't directly generate these emissions, they are still part of its footprint because the energy is consumed within its operation. Finally, scope 3 captures all other the indirect emissions in the value chain. Scope 3 is divided into upstream and downstream. Upstream emissions are all the emissions that happen before your product reach you. This includes the emission from supplier, transportation, generated waste, and business travel. However, downstream is the emission the emission that happen after your product leaves the company. Scope 3 covers 15 categories, making it the largest part of the company's footprint. Okay, now let's look at the organizational boundaries. They tell us what's included in a company's emissions. These boundaries determine which operations and activities are included in the emission inventories. Okay. Let's quickly look at how companies set boundaries for their emissions. There are two main strategies. The first is the equity share strategy. Here you count emissions based on ownership. For example, owning 30% of the factory mean you account only 30% of its emissions. The second strategy has two parts. Operational control, where you manage day-to-day operations and count all emissions from them. And financial control, where you count emissions from activity you finance, even you don't manage them. Getting these boundaries right is essential for accurate emissions calculation and for reporting. Okay, now let's get practical. Take your activity data and multiply it by the emission factor to get the emissions. An emission factor is a standard value that shows how much GHG is released per unit of activity. So it's the number that converts what we do into climate action. So after we calculate the GHG emissions, the next step is to make verification and validation, checking the accuracy of all calculations. So why does this matter? Because accurate and transparent data is the foundation of credible reporting. This is not only to satisfy international standards as the GHG protocol and other ISO, but also to build trust with the customers, investors, regulators, and all stakeholders. Okay, now let me clarify the difference between the validation and verification. Validation looks at whether the methodology, the choosing boundaries, and the data collection process are recommended. On the other hand, verification focuses on the result. It checks the calculations to make sure that the final numbers are accurate and free from significant errors. Neither validation nor verification is done by the company itself. It's done by accredited third party and issue a formal statement to certify the GHG report. Okay, now it's time to explain the concept of the action plan and the net zero carbon. An action plan is a roadmap to cut greenhouse gas emissions, whether direct scope 1 or indirect scope 2 and 3. It's built on the GHG inventory and focuses on the biggest emission sources. By understanding these categories, organization can see their full footprint and design a strategy that drive a real sustainability and climate action. The important goal for every company is to reach net zero carbon. When we talk about net zero, most companies highlight scope 1 and 2 emissions, but the real test is scope 3, which often makes up nearly 90% of the total footprint. Scope 3 include everything outside the direct control. And without tackling Scope 3, no business can truly climb sustainability. At the end, we can say it's time to stop guessing and start measuring GHG emissions, because only then can we truly manage and reduce them. Finally, we conclude that green business and true sustainability start with measuring emissions, and without this step, progress isn't possible. But once we measure, we create the power to improve. Thank you for your attention. Okay,
Uh,
here is
thank
my
you,
contact. Okay,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much, Prof. Ilham, for these interesting points and topics on the greenhouse gases and with the relation and the correlation with the green business and sustainability aspects. So I think we had three interesting presentations ranging from the interlinkages of the SDGs to the low carbon cities and ended by the greenhouse gases and the link with sustainability and green business. So now I'm handing over the session to Michelle to moderate the Q&A session.
Thank you, Dr. Wassam, and many thanks to our esteemed speakers today. I want to, as we usually do, just highlight the audience. Again, we are so grateful for you being with us live, as well as those who join us later. Just to give a snapshot of the global perspective makeup of the audience, we have people from Ghana, Malaysia, Switzerland, Philippines, Chile, Indore, India, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Hyderabad, India, Pakistan, Indonesia, England, USA, Sri Lanka, Egypt, UK, Shanghai, Ireland, Cairo, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Nigeria, Pakistan, and many, many more. So thank you for including the location of where you're joining us from today. And hopefully you'll continue to share your location as we continue with this Q&A session. We're going to go ahead and start with Professor Farhat. And I just want to say that it was so wonderful because as we know, exponential impact, we talk about this all the time, is so critical. And we love how you have shared the systems thinking and how that reveals those synergies to accelerate that impact. And so for those of us in the business community, you have taught us that business must design strategies that reduce trade-offs across those sustainability goals. So thank you so much for that. And we have so many questions, so we're going to get right into it. So the first question is from Indira Bunik from Switzerland. She asks, what is the most counterintuitive SDG conflict you've encountered where pursuing one goal actually undermined progress on another in ways that surprised even you? And how do you advise policymakers to handle the tension between economic growth, SDG, and climate action, SDG 13, when they seem to pull in opposite directions? That might be too many questions within one, but just maybe start with that first component. And for those of us who are seeing the QR code, this is for you to get your certificate for today, and also let us know who might be good to speak at future events. But Professor Farhat, if you would like me to repeat that question or part of it, let me know. Professor Farhat, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. Sorry, I have seen the question. I do agree with you that this might be splitted into 3 to 4 questions, all in one, and I think that the time is maybe limited to answer all the the questions. However, one of the most between the um, economic growth and the climate action or the impact of climate change. And it depends actually whether we are talking about developed countries or developing countries, because the way that they are thinking uh, uh, differs from country to another. It depends on their capacities, it depends on their abilities, and depends on the rate of the economic growth and how this will impact the climate action. Generally speaking, one of the ways that to address the conflict is the what is called the green growth strategies, um, starting with the renewable energy transition, which means that we need to invest more in solar, wind, hydro, and other clean technologies to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels while creating jobs. The second is the energy efficiency, which means that we need to improve the efficiency in transportation and buildings and manufacturing, reduces cost and emissions at the same time. And also the third one, which is the circular, what is called the circular economy, um, in order to design products to last longer, to be reused or recycled, and decouples the growth from source extraction. One of the also the strategies is to um, improve the global cooperation. Um, I mean, rich countries can support developing ones with funds for clean energy and adaptation, um, technology transfer, share low carbon technologies globally. And we in here we are focusing on the SDG 17 about the global partnership. And we know that going back to the what's called the Millennium Development Goals between 2000 and 2015, the Millennium Development Goals focus mainly on the developing countries, but with all the challenges that the global face, actually, we have found ourselves that it is not limited to the developing countries, but it's also extended further to the developed countries. So it depends, actually. There is no one size fits all. It depends on the case by case. It depends that we need to understand the situation in order to give the right advice to the decision maker and to improve the decision making process.
Thank you so much, Professor Farhat. Appreciate that. And I'm especially being with the Global Ambassadors of Sustainability and the Global Green Chamber, we obviously focus heavily on global partnerships. So appreciate you bringing that up. And we always talk about energy efficiency always being sort of the first step for people to start even before the implementation of renewables. But all of the above is so important. So thank you so very much for bringing that.
As an example, I mean, just briefly, actually, I've recently downloaded from the World Bank, actually, the carbon emission um, by, per capita, for data available at the World Bank between 1962 and I think 2018. What I have found actually is that most of the European countries actually have found that there is a significant reduction in 2005. There is an upward, actually, or some fluctuation about the carbon dioxide emissions per capita in tons, but uh, in 2005, actually, between 2005 and 2017, as per the data available, it shows that there is a significant reduction in the carbon dioxide emission. What does this mean if we link it to the actions taken by most of the European countries? It means that the countries put in place strong actions, actually, that reduce significantly the carbon dioxide emission. Also, even considering that there is an economic growth at the same time, but they keep that the reduction in the carbon dioxide emissions. While some other countries actually, it shows that there is a positive trend all the way between 1962 uh, up to maybe current situation. So
Thank you.
it depends, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that report. And we will go to Miss Sophie, if you're here with us. I just want to say that your vision for that closed human-centered cities really show how design innovation can turn sustainability from this abstract that we, many of us struggle with in delivering into that, real ideal, into that lived city reality. So thank you so much for sharing that. And we have an audience question, Robert Domenico from New Jersey. He asked, what are the cost and performance specifications of the saltwater batteries?
Actually, thank you for the questions. Actually, saltwater batteries are very, very simple. It's really like you play between plus and minus, anodes and cathodes, and the salt in the water. It's really very simple. Actually, you could even build your own battery, but obviously it's not strong enough for a building or a skyscraper. But in a way, it's a very simple, very easy solution, which is also very good. I mean, it's too heavy for cars, like for mobile, to be a mobile battery, the load, it's too heavy. But for buildings, it is the solution to create and to build and to have a green battery, which is also harmless because it doesn't really lose any capacity over time. The worst which can happen is that some water evaporates. That's all what can happen. And then in the worst case, you just fill up a little bit with water and that's it. It's really simple. And then also for upcoming countries, for developing countries, it is not expensive. It is a battery which can really serve the world, which is also the good for the looking at the UN SDGs. It's a fair solution.
Thank you so very much. Yeah, really good question, and we like to learn about these new solutions all the time. I'll just give a shout out to Margot Ridgway, who's with us, who is our director for our Global Sustainability Solutions team here. I forgot to make introductions to the audience here, and bringing up this particular solution reminds us of the work that we are doing in the solution side of things. So we will we might reach out to you, Sophia, to get even more information. So thank you so very much.
With pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question will go to Professor Elham. And I just want to say, we've heard all of the wonderful examples and big concepts, but really grounding us in the essential truth of accountability, then that begins with accurate measurement and, really making sure that all of us are taking note of that and making sure that we're following and being accountable at all times through measurements and not just hope and, just the practices without measuring the results of those. So really appreciate that third-party validation and how it builds the trust and confidence in the work that each of us do. So we have some really good questions here. I'll start with Strong Truth. Strong asks, how can young people and local organizations be better engaged in pollution reduction efforts at the community level?
On fait, making sustainable behaviors using a public transportation and decrease the footprint, personal footprint for the person and also for the organization. Use all the sustainable action for everything.
Thank you so much. And always important to get the young people involved. We're going to go back to Professor Farhat. We have another great question from Indira. And it is, what is your recommended approach for organizations wanting to map those SDG interdependencies before launching new initiatives?
Well, thank you very much for this very interesting question. Let me give you an example. At the University of Greater Manchester, I used to work as the program lead of the Master by Research in Environmental Management. And one of the assignments that I gave to the MSc students is to divide them into groups, actually 4 to 5 students per each group, and ask them to map the interconnections between the SDGs. So they start discussing how the SDGs can be interconnected to each other. What are the synergies and trade-offs? And what I have found that each group develop a specific map on how to connect the SDGs. It depends actually based on their understanding on how SDGs can be classified into social, economic, environmental. And also it depends on their understanding on the targets associated with SDGs. Some of them, if we look at just the surface, they might think, for instance, again to the SDG 6, they might think that we are talking only about the safe drinking water and sanitation services. The reality is not. We have 8 targets actually. It consists of the transboundary water resources. It depends on the, for instance, efficiency, irrigation efficiency. So 8 targets we need to understand, digging deeply to see not just the SDG itself from the title, but we need to dig deeply to understand actually the associated of the targets, so that we better understand and we better map the interconnections between the SDGs. I do agree with one of the questions that I have seen also. It is a very complex system, actually. It's a very, very complex system. 17 goals, but we have 169 targets, and we have more than 240 indicators in order to monitor and track. But I do believe that by 2030, we're going to have maybe even a more complex system based on the current trend of the progress also. But again, my advice to all those who are working with the SDGs is to localize the system to their environment, to their cases, uh, to produce a national framework on how SDGs, based on their situation, based on their capacities, based on the amount of money allocated to improve, for instance, to make progress in one or more than one of the SDGs, because it differs from one country to another. Even if we go to deeply to one country, maybe it differs from one province to another. So we need to localize the SDGs and based on the capacities, based on the situation that we need. Even we can produce, and this is the advice by the United Nations, we can produce even more national indicators that can fit with the national security, rather than just to rely on the 250 indicators. But we can revisit, redefine the indicators in order to. And one more important also, that you might make a good progress in one of the targets, but you might have a very low progress in other targets, which affect the overall rate of progress, especially for instance, countries that share the water with two or more than riparian states. Actually, they might have some conflicts, low progress rate in achieving this target, but they might also, at the national scale, they might also make a good progress in delivering safely managed drinking water. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Farhat. And it really fits in the focus on localizing this is definitely something that has been delivered by many speakers with this program. I think Dr. Wissam has been doing such a phenomenal job finding people from all over the world, and they have delivered that message, I think, in a lot of areas where even just within the business community of saying, even if it's not completely localized for each country, it's even regional at least to start there and then, bring it down to the localized level. So thank you for sharing that and reminding us that there are 240 indicators with the SDGs. And we will jump over to Sophia. And Sophia, we have a question. Which element, energy, water, or waste, is the hardest to close the loop on, and why?
That's a very good question. I think at the moment it is maybe the water, because first of all, we throw everything into the water. Water is permeable. I mean, water always finds its way. So everything in our soil, everything we waste will find also its way to the water. and it's not, we need to, in order to prevent the pollution at source, is to decouple things and our actions from the water, to really keep the water safe, to use it as our most precious good. And the yes, I mean, no water, no life. It's really the most precious good we have. And we wash everything with water, we clean everything, we flush everything away with water. So this is actually a process which we need to cut, and then it is more protected, our water, our really little water. Because of our blue planet, only 1% is sweet water. And from this 1%, 3/4, or I don't have the numbers at the moment in my mind precisely, but more than 3/4 are not accessible to us. So really, we do not have water, and we treat it so badly. So we really need to take action, dramatic action, to save our water, and to also be able to bring it to those in need who do not have this safe water, and to find new solutions. And this is really crucial. And I really think it's the water. Sorry. Yes, I'm thinking while talking. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much. I couldn't agree more on the critical aspect of water that we all see and need. And I think we're seeing that more and more, even in westernized countries where we're
Yes.
haven't had maybe issues in the past. I lived in Florida for many years where it rains every afternoon, and people are like, why would we even be concerned about water? It's pouring down rain every day, but even there's critical water shortages. So
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes.
Uh,
Holland, which is also known for having excess water, also since 23 have droughts.
um, yeah, yeah. I'm in Washington State, the same situation in
Yeah,
the Pacific Northwest. Yeah,
yeah.
thank you so much, Sophie.
Thank you.
Our last question will be for Dr. Elham, and it's from Indira Bunik again. She's in Switzerland. And I think this is really important because so many of us work for small organizations or small businesses. And so she asked, what is your advice for smaller organizations who feel intimidated by the technical requirements? And I'll add in costs there, of proper greenhouse gas emissions accounting, but know that they need to start somewhere. Oh, you're on mute.
Um, can you repeat again the question, please?
Yes. What is your advice for smaller organizations who feel intimidated by the technical requirements of proper greenhouse gas emissions accounting, but know they need to start somewhere?
I advise them to calculate the emission and start with scope 1 and scope 2 because scope 1 is direct emission and controlled by the company. However, scope 3 is complicated. And when make this account for carbon footprint, this organization is it's avoid it's know where the high emission are and try to reduce this emission and make the cap correction plan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we might have one more question here that we might be able to get to. I see we just have a couple of more minutes. We have one from Strong Truth for Professor Farhat. Let's see. We are facing and confronting serious barriers such as political and economic inertia and even public fatigue. In your view, how can we overcome these roadblocks and turn intention into real measurable progress for sustainability? And just maybe a minute or two.
Yeah. Again, I would say that by reviewing all the metrics or indicators that can be used to monitor or track the progress for the SDGs, and linking these indicators to the targets, because some of the targets they have one indicator to be used, some others have two or even three indicators to measure the progress. But again, what I have found actually is that it is case by case. For instance, let me give you an example. One of the indicators is that what is the percentage of the population use safely managed drinking water? We might say that, well, 20%, or sometimes we might say that 90%. It depends. But if we go back to localize this indicator, we might say that what is the percentage of the population using the surface water as a source, okay, for the to manage the drinking water, and what is the percentage of the people who are using the groundwater as a source for the to supply the drinking water. So again, it depends. I can't give a generic axiom because it depends on the level of development per each countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Farhat. And I'm going to thank all of our speakers today, our audience who has been joining us and asking questions and providing dialogue, and encourage you to share this with others on your LinkedIn. We usually have between 1,000 to 1,500 who view these videos. So please feel free to continue to share those because we do want to get out this really critical information. And I want to thank our team that has helped to promote this, from Constance and Lauren to Margot, who has been here today to monitor the LinkedIn profiles. And huge shout out again to Dr. Wissam for bringing us all together. And I will pass it back to you, Dr. Wissam.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle, again, and Margaret for moderating the session. And special thanks to the guest speakers for their interesting sharings today, and also for the audience who joined us and enriched the discussion. And we will see you back in 2 weeks' time. So we'll continue the discussion. We'll have more guest speakers who will share their views, and we'll keep that positive momentum and trying to contribute to the betterment of the humanity. So thank you so much, and have a good time, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.